Rain was falling softly on the broken road of a small forgotten town named Greyfield. The town looked peaceful from a distance, but inside its houses lived stories full of pain, hope, and silent struggles. In one of those houses lived a boy named Ethan Moore. Ethan was 17 years old, thin, quiet, and often invisible to the world. His eyes carried questions no one had ever answered. His smile, when it appeared, looked borrowed rather than natural. Ethan lived with his father, Robert Moore, a man once full of dreams, now broken by life. Robert used to be a schoolteacher. He loved books, stories, and inspiring young minds. But after Ethan's mother, Clara, died in a car accident, Robert changed. The house lost its warmth. Silence replaced laughter. Anger replaced kindness. Robert stopped teaching, he started drinking, and Ethan started growing up alone. A childhood without shelter. When Ethan was 10, he used to wait near the window every evening, hoping his father would return sober. Some days, Robert came home quietly. Other days, he came home loud, angry, and empty inside. Ethan learned early that crying did not help. He learned that speaking did not change anything. So he learned to stay silent. At school, Ethan was good in studies but never confident. He sat in the last row, wrote his answers carefully, and never raised his hand. Teachers saw potential, but Ethan never believed in it. His classmates laughed loudly. He smiled softly. His classmates dreamed loudly. He dreamed quietly. At night, Ethan used to write in a small notebook hidden under his pillow. "One day I will leave this town. One day I will become someone who is not afraid of his own voice." The day everything broke. One evening when Ethan was 15, Robert came home drunk and angry. He shouted at Ethan for small things: the broken glass on the floor, the unfinished dinner, the quiet room. Ethan tried to stay calm, but that night something inside him broke. Robert pushed him, not hard enough to injure his body, but hard enough to injure his soul. Ethan did not cry. He did not shout. He simply looked at his father with eyes full of pain and said, "I don't recognize you anymore." Robert froze, but he said nothing. That night, Ethan packed a small bag and slept at his school friend's house. The next morning, he returned home. His father was sitting on the floor, holding Clara's old photo. And for the first time, Robert was crying. Two broken people. Robert whispered, "I destroyed everything." Ethan sat quietly near him. That moment did not fix everything, but it planted a small seed. Robert slowly reduced drinking, not perfectly, not quickly, but honestly. Ethan slowly started talking, not openly, not emotionally, but truthfully. They were two broken people trying to rebuild a house without knowing how. The dream that felt impossible. In school, Ethan discovered something he loved: writing stories. He wrote about pain. He wrote about hope. He wrote about people who were silent heroes. One teacher, Mrs. Allen, read his story and called him after class. "Ethan, you write like someone who has lived more than his age." Ethan replied softly, "I write what I feel." Mrs. Allen said, "You should become a writer." Ethan smiled weakly. "Writers don't come from places like Greyfield." Mrs. Allen looked into his eyes and said, "Great writers come from broken places. That's why they understand truth." That sentence changed Ethan forever. The fear of failing, Ethan applied for a writing scholarship in a city college. He didn't tell anyone, not even his father. When the acceptance email arrived, his hands shook. He read the line again and again. "Congratulations, you have been selected." He did not feel happiness. He felt fear. Fear of leaving, fear of failing, fear of becoming nothing. That night, he told Robert. Robert stayed silent for a long time. Then he said, "I failed you as a father. Don't fail yourself as a dreamer." Ethan cried for the first time in many years. The city that tested him, city life, was hard. People were confident. People were loud. People knew who they were. Ethan felt small. He worked part-time in a cafe. He studied at night. He wrote when he felt lonely. Many times he wanted to quit. Many times he wanted to return. But he remembered his notebook. He remembered Greyfield. He remembered his silent promise. The story that changed everything. In his second year, Ethan wrote a story titled "The Boy Who Learned to Stand Alone." It was about a boy from a broken home who refused to become broken inside. He submitted it to a national writing competition. Weeks passed, then months. One morning, his phone rang. A calm voice said, "Congratulations, Ethan Moore. Your story has won first prize." Ethan dropped the phone. He sat on the floor
and laughed and cried at the same time. Returning home, Ethan returned to Grayfield with confidence in his steps. He hugged his father. Robert looked at him with proud eyes and whispered, "You became what I couldn't." Ethan replied, "No. I became what you taught me to survive." Healing takes time. Robert stopped drinking completely. He started teaching again. Ethan published his first book. People started recognizing his name. But he never forgot Grayfield. He never forgot silence. He never forgot pain. Because pain made him human. And silence taught him strength. The final lesson. Years later, Ethan stood in front of students as a guest speaker. He said, "You don't need a perfect life to become successful. You don't need perfect parents. You don't need perfect confidence. You only need one decision: to not give up on yourself." The hall became silent. Not a sad silence, but a powerful one. And so he learned. Ethan learned that pain is not an enemy. Fear is not a weakness. Silence is not failure. Sometimes, silence is the beginning of strength. Sometimes, broken homes create the strongest hearts. Sometimes, the boy who stood alone becomes the man who inspires thousands.